Good afternoon, everyone. All right, so our audio appears to be working, so that's a good sign. Oh, hi, Polly. Thanks very much for coming along here super early. Thank you. Yes, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back to another Firestorm Studios live stream. My name is Pat, and today we're going to be continuing with our A to Z of creatures in Zbrush. And we are currently on the letter N. And we're doing the Loch Ness Monster. So yes, you could say it begins with L, you could say it begins with N. You could pick either, and I think we can make it work. So, hey, Polly, I just looked at your emoji. Quite tired then, I'm guessing. You must be if you're this early, um, to one of these streams in the afternoon. Uh, so yeah, this is where we kind of got to. We blocked out uh, our Loch Ness monster. We were playing around with different eye shapes the last time, uh, and different eye types. So let's take a quick look at what options we have. We've got these really kind of dark, kind of black, kind of deep black marbly style eyeballs, but we also have a couple of other options, something a bit goofier. A couple of orange variants. I quite like these ones, but to be fair, doing kind of orange eyes, kind of goofy eyes, is kind of something I do with a lot of my stylized characters. Then we've got a more kind of spookier, kind of more milkier kind of style eye. It's a bit more glazed over, and then we've got just something that looks a little bit more run of the mill. Um, At the moment, I'm kind of enjoying these these really kind of deep black marbly ones. I like the third so far and the fourth. So these ones then. The thing is, I'm in two minds. I'm not sure if I want to make the eyes now smaller and uh, make the just kind of bring the size down ever so slightly. So let's play around with that to kind of warm up. We'll play around with that, see what we can do. The problem with it is that it might take away some of the goofiness. So I've got to be kind of careful with that. It cut in and out. The all white one and the big orange one. Ah, okay. So we're looking at either one of these. But again, I'm not sure. I'm really not sure at the moment. The all white one could be quite creepy if we make them a bit smaller. So let's maybe just scale them down and then very quickly do quick adjustment to the eyes just to see what they look like. Originally, we were going for a kind of somewhere between creepy and kind of goofy and cute looking, but I don't know. I'm definitely unsure as to where to take this one. And obviously, we don't want to be spending loads and loads of time iterating on these characters. The idea is to kind of quickly sketch them out and not think about them too much. That's the kind of plan. So we're going. We're kind of abandoning that a little bit for this one. This is the risk that you take when you go into a project completely cold, and you're not entirely sure how you want to design it, because sometimes it can require a complete redo. And when you're doing it on a live stream, that can be a little bit frustrating for viewers. So I think what I'm going to do is I think I'm going to stick with one of these. And I might make these a little bit smaller. So let's, there we go. Make them a little bit smaller. And let's now just do a little bit of extra detailing around the head. I don't want to go too far with the detailing on the head. I want to keep the head quite smooth and streamlined. Is kind of the... Hey, Andre, how you doing? I'm okay, thanks. Yeah. Just, you know, we're at that kind of stage of a model where you're just really not sure where to take it. And there's part of the back, you know, there's that little bit at the back of your head thinking, I should just redo this completely. But I'm going to muddle through and work with it and see how we go. And see how we go. So I think what I'm also going to do with this is, do I have any subdivisions on this? I do. I've got 3 subdivisions and I don't want to mess those up. So, been there every day lately. Yeah, I think it's the weather. I'll blame the weather. That's what's happening. It's the weather. So I think I'm going to change the material here just so it's a bit easier for me to see what I'm doing. There we go, that's a bit better. Bit of a classic Nessie colour as well. So again, I'm just really not sure about what eyes I want to use. I like some of the goofier looks. And if I append a polysphere and just turn that into a Q-sphere and subdivide it once, what I'm going to do is bring that in to the eye area. And what I think I'll also do, actually, before we rotate it, let's get rid of half of it. So we'll just do delete hidden. Yeah, okay. Delete lower, and we'll just do quick delete hidden, close holes, and then I can reposition it into the eyeball. But yes, folks, so I hope everyone is doing okay. It's Friday, so we're almost at the weekend. I'm sure a lot of you are very happy about that. I hope that the weather continues to be as nice as it has been for everyone over the weekend. Up here where I am, it has it's raining today. It's cooled down considerably and it's now raining. So yes, that's kind of just how we are, how it goes sometimes. But it does mean that it's going to be a little bit cooler today for me when I'm streaming. So I'm not going to complain. And we'll just keep smoothing out this eyelid until I get something that I'm kind of happy with. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to delete the lower subdivisions and I'm going to do a, not merge visible, I need mirror. So mirror, merge into one subtool, bring that across. And now I can kind of work on the both of them at the same time. So we'll just grab the pinch brush and I will just pinch the edge of that a little bit, clean it up, grab the trim dynamic, and I'm just going to flatten out the bottom edge of this shape I've made. A bit sketchy, but that's okay. Really not liking the shape that I've made here with the eyelid. It's not really, I just really don't like it. It just looks really unfinished. Maybe if we, oh no, we can't do that because let's do, there we go. But yeah, do let me know how everyone is getting on today. I hope everyone's, I'm sure as many of you will be trying to clock off early if you can, and I don't blame you. Try and enjoy the weather when you're not at work. It's one of the cruel things, I suppose, about the good weather is that it always shows up through the week when everyone's working and then disappears in time for the weekend. That's certainly how it happens in the UK a lot of the time. So, and I'm just going to, one of the things I do want to, it was something I was trying to kind of avoid, but I've always liked the kind of shape, is the almost like horse style shape of the front of the mouth with Nessie designs. That's kind of mixed between a dinosaur and, or a plesiosaur and a horse. With some, obviously with some elements of things like fish and sturgeon kind of thrown into the mix. And these kind of dopey little eyes, which I'm definitely wanting to keep in some way or another. He's looking a little bit, so far so good, just planning my afternoon out. Oh, cool. Good to hear. Right, let's get a little bit of shape under there. I think we need to fix the top edge, and I'm not going to say why, it's just he looks a little bit too dopey. Dope being the important word there. There we go, something happening now. There's probably going to be quite a chill stream, I think, this afternoon, folks. It's been a long week, so, and the hot weather has not helped that at all. And again, this is the thing, I will probably work on this after the stream. I tend to, once we've kind of sketched it out, I like to go back and try and work these out a little bit more. Just to see where we can take them. So I'm going to take those eyes and we're just going to do a quick Dynamesh on them. No. I'm going to undo that, and I'm going to delete the lower, and then just do a quick Dynamesh. That's too low. There we go. That just lets me go in and clean this mesh up a bit. Got a little bit here where it's a bit open at the back, but that was to be expected because of the way that we built the eyelids. So let's invert that and just move that back into position. We just won't tell anybody that we made that mistake, okay? So there we go. Re-Dynamesh. That closes everything up, and no one is the wiser. No one is the wiser. So the thing is, folks, that's something just to mention. Remember to tune in later on this evening, where you'll be able to watch Peter Ocampo here on the Firestorm streams, and look out next week because we do have a new streamer joining us as well. So we have Paige, who is going to be covering some really amazing stuff with animation. So make sure you check out the Firestorm Discord and whatnot, just to keep in the loop of everything that's going on there, in case you want to check them out. There we go. So I'll just Z-remesh that now, make it a bit cleaner for me to work with. And then we'll just do a quick smooth. So go into deformation, quick polish, and then we can start bringing this all together. Oh, we got a follow. Sorry, I have something in front of my OBS. Let me quickly. D4LL4S 1924. Thank you very much for the follow. I don't know how to pronounce your username, so thank you very much. Loving the work. Thank you. Appreciate it. This isn't, I gotta be honest, this isn't the best stuff we've done, or that I've done on the stream. I think I'm suffering from the heat this week. Dallas. Okie doke. Perfect. Thank you, Polly. Appreciate that. So what I've done here with the eye, the reason I've kind of approached it this way is it's allowed me to envelope the eyeball and add extra geometry. So create the eyelid and the part that's actually going to connect into the eye socket when we Dynamesh it together fairly shortly. Because there's a few other things. I've had a couple of other ideas that I'd like to do with this live stream. See how much we can get. But the thing is, no matter what happens on this live stream, folks, we will be moving on to the letter O next week. And I guess this is quite a good one because, you know, we had a very structured approach to the last one, so it's quite nice to get back to more kind of sketchy, kind of exploration style sketching. So what you are seeing here is just how I would work through an idea, and it's either going to work or it's not going to work. Right now, my brain is saying it's not working. But we'll see how it all goes. There we go. I don't really want to add teeth to this version of Nessie. We can avoid it. Okay, so what we're going to do now, I'm just going to jump straight in here. We're going to take these eyes and we're going to go into the body here. And with the body, I think, let's take a look. We've already done a Z-remesh. we've already done a Z mesh, and what I am going to do here as well, I think, is just do something like this, just to darken down the very top. So all I'm going to do is I'm going to darken it down to a light grey, and then just temporarily fill that in RGB wise, so fill object. And we should get something that looks like that. Because we've already got some texture on it. But I think what we'll do is we'll just do fill object, and then I'll do that mask again. And then just mask down front of the nose. Okay, when I zoom out, I'm starting to see it a little bit better now. I'm starting to kind of like it a little bit better than I was. And then we'll take the white, lower that RGB intensity, and just fill it a couple of times. There we go. Bring everything back. And I think for this, what we're going to do with these eyes is, if you've never used this system before in Zbrush, if you've got polypaint on your model, he was looking like a good new version of Good Dinosaur. Oh, good. Oh, that. Thank you. I appreciate that. Unfortunately, that's not one of my. That's unintentional. That's unintentional. So I'm going to adjust the colors, and I'm just going to increase the. I'm just going to play around with this until I like the. Just try and get a little bit brighter. So let's maybe increase the gamma here. There we go. There we go. Just make it a little bit lighter. There we go. So, no, we need to undo that. He's looking really over the top. Do you use Blender 2 or just that software? I use ZBrush, and I use Maya, and I use Substance Painter. I'm not a Blender artist. I'm Maya and ZBrush primarily, as well as a handful of other stuff, like I say, for like Substance Painter for texturing and things, and a few other supplementary softwares. But my primary is ZBrush and Maya. So I'm just going to go into render here, go under preview AO, and just lower that ambient occlusion. I'm going to go back to the eyes and play around with these, see which ones I prefer. Oh, those orange ones are falling to me now with the green. Let's have a look at these ones. Oh no, they don't work. What about the black ones? Let's look at these. Oh no, it's looking too soulless now. Although with the eyelids in place, it looks better. So let's get the eyelids sorted. So I'm going to take this mesh here, duplicate it, and then I'm just going to figure out what stage do I have. I think we're going to go for like level 2 here, and delete the higher and delete the lower, and then do a merge down, and that's going to bring those eyelids together with this lower mesh. Okay. And we've got two options. We can dynamesh these together, and that will fill the gap here between the eye and allow us to sculpt across them. Are you? Ha, Mr. Whitefire, you totally. Yes, I am. That was one of the plans. Yes, I am. I was going to. That was one of the plans. I have a few other things as well that I wanted to do, see if we have time. But we might not have time to finish it. We just might have time to kind of block out the idea I have in my head. Okay, so I think we're going to go away from these white ones, and I think these are. See, this is the thing, folks. The eyes, depending on these, I mean, I think these white ones are working quite well too. Okay, we're going to have to put that on hold because that's kind of working across the board there. So let's just put in the black ones for the now. kind of deep marbly ones. And whoa, that's a big question. Bear with me, folks. I'm just going to quickly get this dynamic. Actually, let me address the question first, actually. Question, I use Substance Painter for texturing, but when I see artwork at ArtStation, both Substance and Marmoset used, should spend time to learn Marmoset or should master Substance? So Marmoset, I would say at the moment, in the main, is used for rendering as opposed to texture mapping and texture painting. Although the texture painting system in Marmoset is actually really, really good. And they've got some really fantastic tools in there. So it's definitely worth investigating and learning how to do baking and use the painting tools inside of Marmoset, just in case you wanted to. But I would definitely recommend learning the rendering side of Marmoset because that's if you've got access to the software, it's a very useful thing to have in your, excuse the pun, tool bag. But Substance Painter, from a job perspective, is going to be more beneficial to you. So while Marmoset it's starting to gain traction in regards to its tool set for painting, it's not really used that much from my experience. So I would recommend going the Substance Painter route. Focus on that if it's from a job perspective. If it's simply a hobbyist approach, learn everything that you can. That's what I would say. Just learn about what interests you. So if you're not doing it specifically to just get a job, then yeah, jump into Marmoset, play around with it, see how it works. And then what's great about that is it's going to allow you to do your baking, your painting, and all that, and then your rendering in one piece of software. So yeah, if you're looking for a job and you're kind of trying to improve your chances at getting a job within texturing, etc., and assets, then yes, Substance Painter would be the best option, I would say, at the moment, to learn that one and master that, and then learn Marmoset on the side and keep an eye on it, because the way that software tends to work is that one software, let's take Substance Painter. Just a tip, you have bots to auto-ban the bots that spam links. Dallas, I have no control over the moderation, unfortunately, on these streams. See, there we go. We already have our superhero. Patricia is moderating for us today, so yeah. Thank you, Patricia. I appreciate that. Thank you. But thank you, Dallas, for highlighting it as well. Sorry, I lost my train of thought there. Yes, so for example, certain software, say let's take Substance Painter, it becomes the de facto standard for a lot of people texture painting. That doesn't necessarily mean that software is going to become bad, but the feature set that they can start to add will start to reduce. So something newer like Marmoset, which is maybe doing things a little bit differently, maybe a little bit cheaper, it's going to draw in another audience. So it's always worth keeping an eye on new tools like that so that you can kind of investigate them and try them out when you want. But there you go. So again, very long digression as always with me. Apologies there. But yes, Substance Painter would be the best option if you are looking for work in the industry at the moment. Okay. Anyway, let's get back. What was I doing? Oh yes, I was talking about what we're going to do with these eyelids and the body. So like I said, we have two options. We can dynamesh it together to fill in the gaps, or we can actually use this tool here under, if we go into our gizmo mode and go under the cog here, we have a remesh by union. So if we simply click on that, oh, what's going on? Zbrush, there we go. I'm going to make sure that I have symmetry turned off because this can sometimes break. And once it's applied, and it just applies it, there's not really any settings, and then just hit accept. If we zoom into the eye area here, you'll notice, or you can draw your attention to these triangles that have been made, where these two meshes have now been connected together. Okay, and what's great about that is that I can now, oh, sorry folks, Zbrush is having a bit of a tantrum here, refusing to work properly. There we go, come on. All right, so what this allows me to do is if I go into something like my standard brush here, hold down Shift, where I would smooth this area out, I can tap on my Sculptris Pro and I can just run the brush along the edge, like so. There we go. And that will instantly merge that into the rest of the model. And of course, I didn't have symmetry on there, so if you accidentally forget to turn symmetry on, you can either undo it and then redo the stroke, or we mask out the area that we've worked on. So just this eye socket area here. Make sure we have nothing else masked. I'm going to attempt this, see if it works. You can always try this, right? You can go into deformation. We're going to hit Smart Resim. Okay, so this normally only works when you have clean topology, but sometimes you can get away with it with Sculptris Pro topology as well, okay? And this time it hasn't worked. It's done its best, but it hasn't worked, okay? So what we'll do is we'll just step back and we'll just redo it. And if I can, you know, a good piece of advice I would say is that when you are working in 3D or actually just doing something creatively, if you do make a huge mistake or if something just really isn't working the way you'd envisioned, it might be really frustrating, but a lot of the time starting from scratch can actually yield a better result and you'll get to the same point much quicker than you did before. So it's worth it. Okay, so there we go. Let's bring those eyes back in now. Okay, these are starting to grow on me. All the eyes are starting to grow on me, actually. This is the problem. Kind of like the orange ones. Definitely my favorite right now. Okay, so now that that's done, it's going to subdivide it once. I'm working on something, so I won't be able to assist. DM me on Discord if something funny is going on. Okay. Brilliant, guys. Sorry, Mr. Whitefire, I forgot that you were a mod as well. So thank you very much. I appreciate you and Patricia keeping an eye on things. Okay. All I'm doing here now is I've subdivided it and I'm just smoothing this out because I'm going for a more stylized look. We're going to get a weird, we're going to get like a weird transition where we use the Sculptris Pro. Okay, so if you do get that and you're not liking it, then we can just Z-remesh the model again. So I just wanted to smooth out some of the surfaces first though, before we did a Z-remesh, because we're going to reproject this. And this is more or less the forms that I want. Could maybe add a couple of extra elements here round about the fins. Originally I was going to do like a tadpole style tail, but I was thinking about it in between over the last few days since Monday, since we started this, and I decided I wanted to go down a more traditional route for Nessie. So so all I'm doing now is I am going to start bringing in this element though on the back. It's my version of the kind of classic kind of humps that are seen. And in case you were not aware, one of the most likely, you know, from a skeptical point of view, things that people are seeing in the loch are sturgeon. And when you look at sturgeon, they have these lumps that go along their back, and sturgeons can grow to, I believe, over 2 meters in some cases. And Loch Ness is over 36 or 37 kilometers long. It's a very large loch, and has more water in it than the rest of the lakes and reservoirs in the rest of the UK combined. A very, very large place. So what that means is that anything that's in it, i.e. sturgeon, can grow really, really big. But to be honest, I really enjoy the wonderment of it all. And I get kind of annoyed when people seek out to disprove something that I think everyone deep down, we know it's all myth and fantasy, but why is that a bad thing to let people have that and enjoy it, right? You know, as long as it's not affecting someone's life in any great way or anybody else's, just, let them enjoy their folklore and their myths, you know. Okay. So one of the things I might do, that I was playing around with, was potentially doing some thin detail down the back. But let's get into doing a quick Z-remesh on this. And we'll also do some UVs as well. Okay, so let's do a quick save. Excuse me a moment, folks. The sun may have gone away and the rain may have returned here to Scotland, but it's still very warm. It's still very warm. So let's see. Okay. So we've saved. We're going to duplicate the model again, just to keep everything nice and clean. So we've always got our backups. I'm going to do geometry, delete lower, and then before we Z-remesh it, I'm going to hold down Control and click on my undo timeline here. It's one of the reasons I duplicated it, because you'll maybe, if you've been working with ZBrush for a while, or if you're new to it, the very top bar here, which personally I think is poorly positioned, and it's one of those few areas of the UI that, to my knowledge, you can't change the position of. As you do more on your model, you're going to start to see this bar expand, okay, and it's going to give you more and more undo kind of states. But when I'm doing a projection, which is what we're about to do, I like to duplicate the model so that I've got fewer, so it's easier for me to hold down Control and click on exactly the state that I want to kind of recover later on. And if you're not sure what I mean there, I'll show you just now. So this is something I do frequently. A lot of the time, I mean, I don't really change up my workflow much with these streams, just kind of from a consistency perspective, and also because these workflows work. You know, they're successful for creating models fairly quickly. It's quicker when I'm not talking, because obviously I talk too much. But there we go. So what we're going to do here is, I'm now going to go down to Z-remesher or geometry here. I'm going to open up the Z-remesher options, make sure that they're default, which is going to be adaptive and a target polygon count of 5. I'm going to change that to 10. And before we hit the Z-remesher button, we're going to put in a few guides just to kind of ease ZBrush in a certain direction for how we want our topology to go. Now, if you're using an older version of ZBrush, your Z-remesher options may look a little bit differently, but functionally, it's the same process, okay? So I'm going to go down to my brushes and go and tap Z and choose Z Remesher Guide. Make sure symmetry is on, and I'm going to start with the fins. I'm simply going to click and drag a line, and then I'm going to tap the Shift key. That hasn't worked, so we're going to have to reorientate and try it again. So drag it out, maybe make a longer line. It's still not working, so let's change the size of our brush. There we go. And all I'm doing here, sometimes ZBrush is a bit funny about this, but what I'm trying to do here, folks, is let me show you on the tail actually. I drag out a line here and tap Shift, it's going to create an edge loop all the way around the tail. And that just simply tells ZBrush that I want a nice clean loop when it Z-remeshes it. And when you're dealing with cylindrical areas like the neck or the tail or a character's arm, then yeah, you want to make sure that these are as clean as possible. There we go. Now, you can also put in custom lines as well, which I'll show you just now. Oh, that was quite bad. There we go. That'll do. So for example, I want to tell ZBrush that I want a nice clean edge running down the edge of my, nice clean edge loop running down the front of the flipper. So I'll simply click, drag, and pull that to the end. And I don't need to go all the way around because you're just, again, it's a guide, and ZBrush will do its best to follow that wherever possible. And I'll do the same here on the back one. And then I'm going to run just an edge down here. Oh, it connected with something by accident. So we'll just try that again. There we go. And then we'll do just a few around the midsection. There we go. And then we go to the character's face. And this is probably one of the most important areas for the edge looping. We're going to lower the size of our brush. And I'm going to run an edge all the way around the character's mouth. So, and we'll do the same with the eye sockets. We'll do something like this. And we'll go in and we'll go around the eyelid as well. A couple of extra lines just to direct the flow of the polys. Okay, once you're happy with it, and again, sometimes you may have to do these guides, hit the Z-remesh button, and then maybe go back and edit them or remove some of them, but that's simply just part of the process, okay? So now I'll hit Z-remesher. Give ZBrush a little bit of a second. Again, depending on how high resolution your model is that you're kind of Z-remeshing, it's going to take shorter or longer. So let's take a look at this. This actually looks pretty good to me. I wouldn't mind the eye being a little bit more detailed. So what I'm going to do here is I am going to go back into the guides. I'm going to hold down Alt, Control and Alt, and then or hold down the Alt key and drag over the edges that I put on the face. And what that will do is it will delete them, like so. And for some reason it's done something weird to the mouth, so we'll do that too. Okay, what's going on? How odd, why is that not deleting? Okay, there is a chance that they've... Okay, fine, we'll just go back and undo that. So, I've removed those edges. Not sure why it's not. Oh, okay, it's worked that time. Must have been a little bug. All right, ignore that. Now, what I can do here is I've got the guides in place, but if I want to tell ZBrush, please put more of the new topology in a specific area, we can do that with polypaint. So to make sure this works okay, I'm going to switch over to a basic material, and I'm going to click on Use Polypaint. And when I do that, ZBrush is going to give me this color here. And now I can paint in over the head. And this is me telling ZBrush, this area that I've painted, I want you to put more of the density of the topology in this area. Because this is this is an important area and I need more detail. And you have a density slider here. So by default, it's at 2. If you lower it, it's actually going to go blue. So you can tell ZBrush put less geometry here. So for example, if I do, let's put that to 1. Actually, let's put it to 1. Can't remember if it'll go blue or a lighter pink. Let's see. Oh, it's actually really hard to see what that one is. Okay, let's do 0. There we go. So what you can see here is that on the tail, I'm painting in a light blue color now. But let's change that to 0.75. Oh, wow, that's still too hard to see. So there we go. We'll do 0.5 instead, and then I'll just paint back over it. So hopefully you can see it a little bit easier now. There we go. So now I have 2 areas that I've asked ZBrush to be less dense and more dense with the topology. And now we'll just go back and we'll hit the same button again, see remesher. Okay, now already I can see, you can see already that the tail is looking far less dense and the head is looking way more dense. It's actually almost a 1-to-1. Okay, so I'm actually going to undo that, and I'm going to undo what I did on the tail. I only did the tail section there as an example. I don't want it to be as low as that. So we'll do it again, Z-remesher, keep the head the color it is so that it gets the lion's share of the topology, and now we get that. And you'll notice that all it's doing is it's not actually creating an offshoot like triangles or anything to kind of make more geometry. It's keeping the same number of edges going up the head, but it's just making it denser across different detailed areas. Okay, so once that's done, we can switch back to the color we were using, bring everything back, and now I'm going to go to Morph Target, Store Morph Target. Then I'm going to go to Geometry, and I'm going to divide this twice. I don't need that many for this next part, okay? That many subdivisions. Next, we're going to lower our subdivision, go back to our Morph Target, hit the switch button. You won't have seen much of a change, but what's actually happened there is that by pressing the Morph Target, it's changing the model back to its original size. When you subdivide in ZBrush and actually most other applications, the subdivision process shrinks the model a little bit. And if you're working in games, this is incredibly important because in games, you don't want that silhouette to change. Okay, if the silhouette changes, then it could screw something up in Engine. All right, so in that case, using this Morph Target switch makes sure that we're working in that original volume of the mesh. And then we just step up the subdivisions, delete the Morph Target, and then hit Store again. And now we have a Morph Target with this nice smooth model of Nessie. Then we're going to go to Subtool, Project, and under here, you'll remember that way back at the beginning, we used Control and clicked and saved a history state, right? So what I can do with that is if I turn off color, turn off the blur, and change my mean down to 12, I can hit the project history button. So what ZBrush will do is it's going to look at this saved history state up here, which is this one here. And it's going to take that information and project it back onto my new model. Now we shouldn't see much change, but it's mostly going to be in the head area. We'll do it again, project history, and you'll see in the nostril area that we get a bit more detail. Now there's also going to be some broken parts brought over, so we need to go in and we need to re-smooth some of that. Now we could of course just re-sculpted the whole head if we wanted to and put those details back in, but I wanted to cover that with you. Don't like those nostrils. Let's undo that. Kind of prefer it if they're a little bit smaller, actually. That's better. Sorry, I have other reference of various like dinosaurs and other lizards and things that I'm using as reference here. So I'll just grab the damn standard here and just give myself a few sketchy lines just to outline where I want these things to go. Still keeping it nice and clean, not really going too much in the way of detailing. And let's take these nostrils up a little bit. There we go. Take our damn standard and we're just going to clean up this edge here. The mouth, just make it a bit deeper. Take the move brush and bring that down. Okay. And with these subdivisions in place, this is going to allow us to go in and tweak areas like the eyelids much easier. And there we go. Okay, so next thing is, hey Manik, how you doing? So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to look at UVs. Okay, now the excuse me, sorry, the UV system in ZBrush at the moment is fairly rudimentary. It's still useful though. That's the thing. Don't sleep on it, because you can get some really clean UVs out of ZBrush if you know how to set the model up. Okay, so let's go into our wireframe here, and I'm going to make myself a bunch of polygroups. I'm going to split the polygroups up into where I want my UV shells to be, or how I want my UV shells to be. So I'm going to switch to select lasso, and I'm just going to hide some of these edge looped areas here. And this is one of the reasons that we make sure we have clean topology. It makes everything easier. We'll do auto groups. And let me switch back over to basic material so this is a bit easier. Okay. So I'm going to turn off the line just for the time being, and now I can hide the head, the body, hit Control W, and there we go. So now we've got a couple of edge loops, sorry, polygroups. I'm going to go do the same here at the back. Let's see where this is going to, where's the cleanest edge loop? There. There we go. That's the cleanest edge loop. Auto groups, same thing again. We'll go in and hide the tail. Let's do the same now on the body. We're going to go to the underside here, symmetry's on, find the cleanest edge loop for both flippers. We can separate them. There we go. And hit auto groups. Now we can do a bit more cleanup. So I'm going to go into each of the bins here, and actually let's just hide that and do an auto group. And we'll do the same for the back part as well. I am going quite fast here, folks, so by all means, if you have any queries or questions, feel free to shout out and ask. I say, well, shout out, you know, fire a message into the chat. What did I miss? You've not missed much. Well, I suppose maybe you have. We've kind of made a decision, kind of made a decision, I suppose, on what we're doing for our Nessie. We may not have the time today to finish it, but regardless of that, we will be moving on. Okay, so we now have 8 poly groups, and what we could do here as well, if you wanted to, is you could half these again. So you could simply just take one of the poly groups, turn off symmetry, and then do a selection like this, where we hide part of it, like this. I'm only going to do the head as an example here, okay? Hit Control W, and there we go. So now the head is going to be split into 2 parts, right? You can also paint where you want seams to go in ZBrush, but we're not going to do that today. I find it's a little bit haphazard. I would prefer to use the split function like I've done. So say example, let's just do this one too. So we'll hide that, Control W, now that's split in the middle. And why not? Let's just do it for the rest of the model. So do the body and then do the tail. There we go. Okay, let's do a quick save. Sorry, folks, Windows has decided to fight with me there. There we go. And now, suppose the other option I have here, folks, is I could do some more with the, what is that? Sorry, folks, I spotted something that I don't like the look of. Okay, there's a random piece of geometry on my character, which we're going to zoom into. I'm going to hold down Control and Shift and just click on it. And then I'm going to hit double. It's already on, so you can just see it there. These things here. I'm going to Control Shift and click and drag, and that's going to invert that. And then I can hit delete hidden. Now it's going to shout at me about being on the lowest subdivision, so we'll do that again. There we go. There we go, Manic with another good point. You can use creases to create seams in ZBrush for UVs. Oh, crap. And this is why we save. See what I've done here? I've deleted part of that. I don't know how that's happened. So we're going to load our tool back in. And I'm going to go to this and do auto groups. And then we'll go back in and find these parts. And then we'll do this again. There we go. And then we'll hit delete hidden. Let's just check that we haven't, there we go. So we'll delete hidden. There we go. Oh, good. Let's save again. And right. So let me see. Okay. Now that we've got our poly groups, we're going to go up to Z plugin and we're going to go down to UV master. And in here, I'm going to turn off symmetry. I generally find sometimes that when I leave the symmetry on, it will crash a lot of the time. I don't know why, it's maybe just my bad luck, but I make sure I have polygroups on, and then I just hit unwrap. And because we've made a nice clean, set of polygroups for our UVs to follow, when we go into UV map, turn the bump down to 0 and hit morph UV, we should get something that looks like that. So they're not the kind of UVs, I mean, they're okay. I would still prefer to kind of clean them up, but it gives you a really good place to start and then take it back over to something like Blender or Maya or 3D Studio Max, whichever is your preferred package, and then you can clean up the UVs from there. So it gives you a good start. And if you're just working in ZBrush like we are today, it allows us to apply textures and tileables in a better fashion. Okay, now in some cases you may want to come in here and rotate and adjust some of them, but we'll just leave that for the time being. So I'm going to hit morph UV, and there we go. Now, I just want to try one thing before we move on to the next part, and actually we're just at an hour, so we're going to maybe take a small break in a little bit. So I'm going to hit noise, and I am going to turn this to UV, because we've got UVs on it. I'm going to pick myself an alpha. Now you won't be able to see the alpha I'm picking until I bring it in, but bear with me and we'll get this sorted. So let me see, what do we have? Again, Windows is fighting with me here. We could do leathery skin, tileable scales. Let's try these. Okay. And you won't be able to see much here, but we need to play around with some of these options here. We're going to take the mix basic noise down to 0, and then we're going to play around with the strength until something starts to come through. There we go. Okay, so once we've got the strength there, now we can go in and start to adjust the scale. Okay, sorry, that's the noise. It's the alpha we want, so we're going to bring this down to there. And generally, you will notice that we had some seams there. Most of the time they disappear, but I will generally just bring... I always find that certain alphas have a certain size they need to be in order to accurately get rid of a lot of the distortion, okay, and any seams. Okay, and we're just going to pump the strength up to there and hit OK. And now we have nice tileable all over our Nessie. And you'll see that we don't have any seams, no distortions. Perfect. Exactly what we wanted. Okay, now this is basically a bump map at the moment. This is not real, this is not baked into the geometry. The surface noise option here, I can turn it on and off, which is really handy because it allows me to go in and I can still, if I take my damn standard here, I can still go in and carve details into the model, right? And you'll notice that my the surface noise is going to work around it to a degree. If you push it too far, it will break, but it does allow you to go in and start to add some adjustments to it. Okay, and you can also bake what I've done here onto a layer, right? So, for example, if I turn off the noise, let me just undo some of this. There we go. If I turn off the noise and then go to layer, I can make myself a new layer. Then I can put the surface noise on. And then if I go into my layers, I can turn off record and I can turn it on and off. Oh no, sorry, my apologies. I've skipped ahead there. What I meant to do was, if I'm applying this noise with a layer, I can actually apply it to the mesh. Okay, now notice that the model, all the detail disappeared, which is normal because we don't have enough geometry to support all that fine detail. So let's step back and let's subdivide the model. But to do that, we're going to have to delete our layer. So we'll get rid of the layer and we'll divide this to level 6. So we're currently at 26 million. We could probably subdivide one more time. So let's try it. Oh no, it's shouting at me. Oh no, I can't. My apologies. I'm at 26 million. If I subdivide one more time, that's going to take me over the 100 million polygon limit that Zbrush has. Okay, so this is actually a really good point to make here. If you are doing this level of texturing detail in Zbrush, you will be limited to how many times you can subdivide your model and how many polys you can reach. And in that event, okay, when you get to that point where Zbrush can't support the level of detail, but in a geometry point of view, that's when you have to start looking at things like Imrie and the Substance Painter to texture it and create this as a texture map, as opposed to applying it as geometry in Zbrush and then making a displacement map. There's other ways to make displacement maps, i.e. through Substance and through particularly Imrie for this type of thing, because you're going to give yourself way more resolution than Zbrush could ever offer. All right, so just bear that in mind. And I want to point out as well, this particular tileable is from the Flipped Normals skin kit, so which I bought many years ago. So just in case you're curious where I got this from. So that's looking quite cool. So now that we've got our subdivisions up to a higher level, we can go into layer, apply a layer. And now if I go back in to surface and hit apply to mesh, take a little bit longer. You're gonna have to subdivide things. And what you'll probably see is that's not too bad. Now, what always happens when you apply this to the geometry is it's going to reduce how contrasted it is and how deep the detail is. But that's why I like to apply it to a layer. So if I turn this layer off or turn the record off, you can see that now this detail is applied onto a layer. So what I can then do is I can hit duplicate. And I can duplicate that layer, and all of a sudden I'm back to the level I've got, and we can change the values of the layers to get the exact ratio that you want. But again, I think when you're getting into this fine granular detail, it is sometimes better to do it from a texturing perspective in Imrie or in Substance. Okay, so let's delete these and let's go back down to level 3 and delete those higher subdivision levels. All right, folks. So we're going to take a short break for the time being, folks, and I'll be back in 5 minutes. Speak to you shortly. right, folks, we're back. I have a fresh cup of tea, so everything's good, and I'm now sitting down rather than standing. So let's get stuck in to the rest of this. All right. So what we've now got is we have our model essentially in its primary form that we are looking for. We can always add details a little bit later, but we have a base level of skin as well using a bump map, just to give us a rough idea. And then if we switch back over to the material that we were using, we can also turn on. Do we still have the, oh yeah, that's fine, that's all good. So I think for the next stage, what we're going to look at here is a little bit into the idea I had for the final image. And I don't think that we're going to have time to do the whole thing on this stream today. But it is the kind of thing that I might continue in the Discord server. Occasionally I will jump on and do live streams in there. So if you're interested in following along and seeing those when they go live, please do make sure you come along and join the Firestorm Discord. You'll find links to that below the video, and you can just click on you can follow the links, or you can scan the QR code to find out where all that stuff is. All right. Now, let me see. What do we do? Okay. So the idea that I had, let me just clean up this this folder. I'm just going to call this eyes, because I've got a whole bunch of different eyes here that I'm playing around with. So there we go. And I think we're going to put the body, I'm going to put them in a whip folder. Like so, put that underneath there. Do a quick save. This is the kind of thing I wouldn't mind kind of turning into a Substance Painter project as well. You know, things for proper tartan and maybe some cool redo the creature skin, all that kind of stuff, all that kind of good thing. So there we go. Now, the idea I had, and we're just going to quickly block this out. I'm going to take a polycube and give ourselves some water, like that. And what we do want is it to be fairly deep. There we go. At least at that point. And we're then going to take another, we're actually just going to duplicate this, move it to the side. I'm going to use the deformer option here. So when I'm going to be honest, I really don't like the deformer tool set in ZBrush, in ZModeler. I think it needs to be re-evaluated because I think it's really unintuitive. So in order to move some of these points, I have to mask them. And I have to be honest, I don't like that at all. And then invert it in order to move it. It's just not, I mean, you can click on them, but honestly, it's so hard to grab them sometimes that masking them is the best way. Okay, so we'll mask, invert, and then just move that up like so. And then once it's in that kind of shape, I'm going to subdivide it and do something like this. We'll grab the water again, and we're just going to scale it out. And give ourselves some land. Now again, this is just me kind of blocking out the rough idea that I want to do with it. So we're going to subdivide this as well. And then grab a move brush, AccuCurve, and fairly large brush, and just create part of the shore. There we go. So there's a bit of the shoreline of Loch Ness. We'll build it up a little bit. Subdivide that again. Lost pressure sensitivity, so let's jump back, and there we go. And I think what we'll do is we'll dynamesh this. So delete lower and dynamesh. Oh, that's way too high. So let's lower that. Still a bit too high. There we go. Hey Vega, how you doing? Good to have you here. Welcome to the stream. So we have something like this, and then what we might do is grab both of these and we'll just put them into a group. And then we'll just do a transpose set. And that's going to let me move them at the same time. And my idea here is that I want to have a little guy on the shore kind of holding up a haggis to Nessie. Like, that is just something that I feel like I have to do. I have to make this image as Scottish as it possibly can be. You've got Loch Ness, you've got a See You Jimmy hat on Nessie, and then we need to have a Scotsman with a big beard, big red beard, holding up a haggis and feeding it to Nessie. That is the image idea that I have in hand. And also, as Mr. Whitefire mentioned earlier, we are going to give Nessie a corncob pipe as well, or a pipe of some kind. It wasn't really a corncob pipe I had in mind. It was more of a little nod to my grandfather who used to smoke a pipe. I was going to put that in as well. But let's append. We need to get ourselves. I'm going to save this. Save next. I need to append a mannequin. Love the hat. Thank you very much, Vega. The hat's very cool, right? Okay, let me see. Oh yes, this is something that I need to do. Where is it? Lightbox tools. Where is it? Z-spheres. Load tools from project. No, is it going to let me? No. Okay. Bear with me here, folks. I'm going to have to open up the mannequin and then append it. It's going to be a bit frustrating. So I'm just going to resave this again. Save that. And then we're going to switch over. And we're going to bring in the mannequin. So Lightbox into the mannequins, and let's go for mannequin 3. No, that's not the mannequin I want. This is not the mannequin you're looking for. So, all right, that'll do. So I've got that. I'm just going to save that as a Z tool into my Nessie folder. And let's now switch back. And we're just going to do render. Where's it? Preferences, interface. Where's it? Config, restore, custom. Oh, nope. I have to open up ZBrush again. Bear with me. While it's doing that, I will take a quick sneaky drink of my new cup of tea. I'm playing with the idea of going back to a lighter ZBrush UI. So I'd really like to know what chat's thoughts were on the UI color. And I know that sounds weird, but it does come back to how easy it is for you all to kind of see what we're doing. Okay. Do you usually start with such a mannequin or more detailed base meshes? Oh, it completely depends what I'm doing, Vega. Or which we can, and I can show you an example. So let me load up Nessie here. And so we've got Nessie. And with Nessie, we just started with primitives, okay? And you can do the same with your base meshes as well. You can just make a base mesh and turn it into with primitives and then turn that into a base mesh. But obviously, yes, you can also start with a mannequin. And I particularly like using the mannequins because they allow me to pose a character. So if I'm just starting from scratch and I want to create and focus on the sculpting of it and enjoy the process, I'll start with a mannequin and I'll just do everything from scratch. It's a really good way to practice your forms and keep your eye in, and it's going to improve your speed. The more you do things from scratch, the better you'll be as a sculptor, because you're going to be able to tackle any kind of situation where someone says, "Oh, I need you to quickly model this." Oh, great. Okay, I can do that. But we don't have a base mesh. Oh, okay, then that's fine. That's something that you should be thinking about in your training, is that think about how you can adapt to a situation if you were if all of your tools were taken away from you. How would you approach it? So, for example, if you have lots of plugins that you use in Maya, okay? What happens if the company that you go and work for doesn't have those plugins? That's why I've always spoken so strongly about learning the fundamentals and the core structure of not just how the industry works and how things like polygon modeling and rigging and animation and stuff like this. Not just how that works, but also how your software works. You should be able to create almost anything in the software of choice without a plugin, okay? Or at least to a certain degree, all right? So it's a good thing to learn. And again, the more that you do work from scratch, the more things will, the quicker you will become as an artist, okay? And the more adaptable you'll become. And it makes you more confident, because it means that if you end up in a position where you don't have any of this stuff, then you'll be okay. Now, I can't remember if these let you scale them. I don't think they do. That's one thing I would quite like to see, is the ability to scale these as in one go. But actually, out of curiosity, I wonder if this will work. No, it doesn't. Okay. All right. So in an instance like this, where there's a scale issue in Zbrush, particularly when you're using the Z-spheres or the mannequin, which is made up of Z-spheres, I will just go, okay, I give in. I'm going to scale up. I'm going to scale up the character. So what we'll do is, let's do some more cleanup here. We're going to get rid of this whip folder. So we're going to say delete all in the whip folder. And this is where we're going to have to make a choice, folks. What eyes do we want to keep? And I think I'm going to stick with the orange ones. So I'm going to take one of the eyes and put them up here, and then I'm just going to get rid of these. We can always repaint the eyes if we need to. And the reason I'm doing this is I need to make a new folder with everything in it. So I'm going to make a new folder here. And just start popping all these parts in it. And there we go. Or not, as the case may be. There we go. Perfect. Now I'm going to go to transpose set and just scale it up. That looks about right. And then we'll just go transpose set, undo. Perfect. Obviously, what I should probably do here is rotate everything as well. It is a bit frustrating having to work around the mannequins like this, I'm not going to lie. It'd be good if we could scale them, but just how it is. Okay. Perfect, and we'll just do a new save. All right, that's done. Now, to get back to your question, Vega, about base meshes, like I said, if I'm starting from scratch, I will use a mannequin. But that's when, like I say, when I want to enjoy the process of sculpting or I'm practicing something. If I'm in a position where I need to get something done quickly, then I will use a base mesh. Okay, so if I'm, say for example, I have a likeness to make. Let me see here. I think I've got a likeness I can bring in. Where is it? Projects. Yes, I can bring this in. Okay. So if we have like a work in progress likeness, like I have here, okay? This is an example where it would be better to start with a base mesh potentially, because it means all of the forms are already in place. And say you've been said, oh, you've only got a couple of days to, or maybe 3 or 4 days to knock out a likeness, but we don't have a scan and we don't have and the reference you'll have to collect yourself, all these kind of limitations that are put in place. Well, in that case, you have to be able to work as fast as possible. So if you have a base mesh that you know is animation friendly and is going to work, then I would recommend doing that. Okay, so if we go into the polyframe for this, you'll see that this is already made up of a fairly dense base mesh. Okay, and this is one of my VFX ready base meshes, so I know that this is going to work with facial expressions and kind of animation and rigging and all this kind of stuff. And it's also got UVs and everything's already prepped for it. And in many cases with my base meshes, I'll already have eye parts. For example, like, caruncles, meniscus, the different parts of an eyeball. I will have like the tongue, the teeth, the gums, all of that will already be prepped. And that is when I would pull that in and use that to speed up my workflow. And then you're not worrying about getting the shape right and getting, sculpting an ear or sculpting a nose. Instead, you're more interested in matching what that form and that shape looks like to the particular character or likeness that you're trying to create. Okay, so that aside, let's jump back to Nessie. And what we're going to do is, I think I'm going to cut a camera groove here in my mesh. So like that, and just delete hidden. So that's just going to let me start working on this guy. Oop, there we go. All right. Okay, we're still on transpose set. What's going on? There we go. So my thinking was something like this, where our character, we bring in a sphere, and we're going to make ourselves a little rock. So we make a polysphere here. We'll make ourselves a little rock at the shoreline. And trust me, there's always rocks at the shoreline. Okay. So with that done, I've got something to put my guy on. Give him something to help with his pose, make it look more dramatic as he's handing over this piece of haggis to Nessie. So we're going to hide the shore bit actually for the time being. and then we'll add it back in later. But ZBrush is behaving quite badly. There we go. Okay, so I'm going to turn off symmetry, and then I'm just going to do something like this. And just start to kind of rotate this around and just get the pose roughly where I want it to be. And then obviously we would have Nessie kind of looking down, etc. on it. I thought might be quite good. And the reason I wanted to do this and kind of make it quite comical is it's similar to because one of the first stories of the Loch Ness Monster is, I think it's Saint Columba in the 6th century. And the story goes that he sees a man being attacked by a sea beast or a water beast, and he was obviously a saint, so a Bible in hand and things, and he says this Bible verse, and the beast flees, and the man is saved. And I always like the idea of that kind of imagery of just somebody on the shore yelling at the Loch Ness Monster. And then I thought, well, why not have them feed the Loch Ness Monster, but make it, feed it a haggis? That to me seems like makes a lot of sense. So that's what I want to do. So there we go. We'll just, because let's be honest, and if you're honest with yourself, you would do the same. Or maybe I'm just projecting, because that's what I would do. But yeah, I would definitely feed a Loch Ness Monster if I had one. Or if I saw one. So there we go. What's funny is that at the moment, because the mannequin we're using is like an 8 heads high one, it looks quite heroic. But it's not going to be. It's not going to be that heroic in the end. Right, let me think here. Okay, I think we're in a pretty good, yeah, we've kind of blocked this out fairly well. That's kind of what I was thinking. And yeah, that looks kind of cool. So another thing I sometimes do in ZBrush, so that I can just do all of this in ZBrush and I don't worry about it too much, is I'm going to make a plane, and I'm going to scale it up, and I'm going to hit double. I'll just frame it like this. And then I'll just take the middle of it, try and make it as equal as I can. There we go. And just do delete hidden. And I will just use this to frame up ideas and images. Oh, he doesn't have his haggis, does he? Right, we need to give him his haggis. So let's make a quick haggis. So we'll go into initialize and do a Q sphere. Again, good old Q sphere. How are we doing? Okie doke. It's a quiet one today. It's definitely a quiet one today, folks. But then again, it is the end of the week. You know, it's just everyone is, and it's been a very warm week, so everyone's tired. I know I am. I don't mean to kind of, I'm just projecting a little bit, but yeah, I'm tired. Okay. I'm not going to explain what a haggis is. You can Google it, because I don't want to, because the description of it might put some people off. Right, why is... Oh, that's weird. Okay. Such weird graphical issues today. I had to Google it. I thought it was an animal. Well, technically it is. It's several animals. Part of it is an animal. Yes, it's a Scottish delicacy. Now, not everyone's going to agree with me that it's a delicacy, but you know, think of it as quite a. The best description, or the easiest description I can say is it's kind of like a large sausage. But it's not quite. Is it good? It's delicious. I love it. I love haggis. And I'm not just saying that. I do actually. I genuinely enjoy haggis. Not everyone does though. I know lots of people that don't like it. And also, if you're a vegetarian, don't let that put you off, because there's a lot of vegetarian haggises out there. And honestly, it makes no difference, because the flavor and the texture is basically the same whether or not you have the meat one or the vegetarian one, because all the flavor comes from the spices anyway. So yeah, so don't worry too much if you are if you go, oh, I'd like to try it, but I'm a vegetarian. Doesn't matter. There's a vegetarian option. And let me see here. I need general sculpting. Oh no, wait, it's in environments, isn't it? It is. Sorry, I'm in the wrong folder. I'm looking for my orb crack brushes, and I could have sworn they were in there. Maybe they're in environment. There they are. Orb cracks. Actually, that's not what I wanted. I wanted this one. That's not the... There we go. I need to subdivide that again a little bit. I'm just going to do that. Now, I am no Patrick 4D, so you're not going to get some awesome looking... you're not going to get awesome looking sculpted food here. So that's what you came for. Prepare to be disappointed. But yes, have a look, find, Google haggis, and if you... The thing is, I guarantee that, if you read the description of haggis, I'm sure there'll be other dishes across the world that are similarly, that are of a similar ilk. So that's too big. Oh, that is just, I'm just making an absolute mess of that because I'm rushing, I'm going too fast. So I'm just going to append, and actually, you know what I'll do? I think I'll duplicate this. And then just rotate it around, make it a bit smaller, and get that into the middle. And then we're going to use the surface noise on this. But this time what we're going to do with the surface noise is we're going to put the strength up really, really high, and we'll change the scale so it's really noisy. It looks like that. And we can also mess around with some of the shapes here in the curve to make something that looks a little bit more erratic. There we go. Okay, there we go. And we'll just do apply to mesh. Perfect. The world's fastest haggis. And yes, there is a kind of a bit of a joke that a lot of Scots will play on tourists and make them think that the haggis is a real animal. That's quite a common one. Spoiler alert, they're not real. But if you ever visit Scotland, you will see, you'll see a lot of tourist things with, haggis and stuff. Gift of the Haggai. So let's just get this back underneath. There we go. Into the inside. Perfect. There we go. One haggis. So let's give that a nice colour. I say a nice colour. This is probably not helping anyone. They go, oh my god, that looks awful. Don't let my depiction of it put you off. The fluffy haggis is not real. Unfortunately not. I wonder actually, should I have him? No, I think I'm just going to have him hold it. There we go. I suppose actually we should probably make him use both hands. That would make more sense. Because one thing about haggis is that it can be really dense, like a really heavy food. And you guys must be loving this, It's like, yay, we came for sculpting and now we're getting to hear about weird food from Scotland. So let's take the water here and we'll plump it up a bit around old Nettie. Oh, Zbrush is losing its, going to be a bit weird with its camera, so we'll just okay, delete hidden. What happens if I hit close holes? Is that going to screw? Oh, it's not too bad. That's fine. We'll go back to this, do a little bit more work on I don't do environments very often, but I do actually quite enjoy doing them. They can be quite a lot of fun to sculpt. The last one I did, I think the last time I did some major environment work was, I think it was Aquaman 2. Yeah, it was Aquaman 2. I did a bunch of environment stuff there. Oh no, wait, I'm telling a lie, it wasn't. Well, sorry, that was the last time I did stuff, like a lot of it physically. And then after that, I did a bunch of other environment stuff, but I wasn't actually necessarily making it all myself. I was supervising the build of it, so a little bit different. Okay. So we're also going to do a little bit of transparency here, and let's bring in the knife curve. Just cut some of that down. And we'll slice that. Oops. Oh. I should probably get rid of this random frame that I've made too. That's not helping anyone at the moment. There we go. So the idea would be is that we would actually pose Nessie down and maybe get the tail out, or maybe bring the, have the head kind of come round. To be fair, I actually quite like the liking this kind of side-on profile. So let's now that we've got everything scaled, we can pull everything back out for the environment. So we'll do a folder for the environment and just pop all of that into there. We've got our mannequin, who will eventually become our Scotsman. With a kilt, obviously. He's going to wear a kilt. I mean, so again, we're not going to have time to do that on today's stream, I'm afraid, folks. I mean, we're going to go over a little bit more. We're going to go over a little longer today, because I did take a bit of a break so that I could go and get another cup of tea. But the temperature is starting to go up. I can, starting to sweat a bit. All right. So Nessie is, so let's do a little bit more work on old Nessie now. Let's pull the hat out here. These random pieces. So this is Nessie, rename folder. There we go. And let's hide the environment. And actually let's work on Nessie herself. Zoom into the head a bit more. And I might just leave the scales on. I quite like the idea of them being quite subtle when you're doing more kind of stylized kind of characters. It's quite nice to have it just a little bit more stylized. Oh, no symmetry. Let's get symmetry back on. That would help. And we can start sculpting this in a bit. If we need to, we can put on, do we have any paint for this one? No, we don't. We filled it with. So all I'm now doing is, oh, wait a minute. Did I? No, I didn't put this. This is just the noise map. That's all. This is a bump map. There's nothing wrong with doing this as well. It's like you've got to do whatever makes your life easiest when you're sculpting characters. So if you know you're going to be putting some kind of scales on the character, then yeah, apply it with, do your normal, your UV maps, your retopology, and then when you're sculpting these these finer details, put the surface noise on. Give yourself a better idea of what it is you're sculpting. Can also help indicate where you need to put detail and where you don't. So we're going to make the nostrils quite deep here, and like so. I think I need to fix this. There's something about the back of the mouth that's been bothering me. I'm going to try and see if I can fix that a little bit. There we go. I love the fact that I started out wanting to do a more kind of creepy Nessie, and then it just went the way it went, and she's become more docile and jovial. Keeping that little idea of like the horse style nose, and then leaning into that plesiosaur theory. And it just gives me an excuse to sculpt a dinosaur, right? Or a dinosaur-like creature. And obviously, if you've seen my art station, you'll know that my mascot is a little. My kind of mascot is just a little blue dinosaur that I designed. Who knows? Maybe it's time to retire him for Nessie. Okay. One thing I'm going to do now is I am going to start using layers. Oh, I need to go up to the highest subdivision here. There we go. And that's how I can start to indicate some shape here now. Oh wait, let's switch over to mask lasso and just indicate kind of a separation of the top and bottom. I'm going to switch back over now to the mask pen. We'll just paint this part in. Same as we did before, but we're going to now look at it more from a sculpting point of view and make a proper separation with it. And we'll jump back to the mask lasso and we will continue that down the tail. There we go. And what I'm also going to do is using the mask pen, I'm going to switch the alpha to something like alpha 8 and I'll switch it over to, my apologies, I'm doing it in the wrong, need to hold down the masking tool, sorry, switch to drag rectangle and then change that to alpha. And then what that's going to allow me to do is go in here and just remove parts of this. Kind of breaking it up. Now again, you could do this with by painting it in Substance Painter, but I just want to, we're not actually in the Substance Painter at the moment. We're just kind of trying to do this in Zbrush. I can switch out the alpha as well. Just breaking up the breaking up that line down the body. Let's switch over now to, let me see, what's alpha 24? Oh, that's quite good. Yeah, there we go, that's quite nice. Be a bit more careful as we get to the edge when we're coming down the tail. I might have to zoom in a bit here. There we go. And then we'll go back up the rest of the body and just fill in any areas that we think need a little bit more work, just to clean up that edge a bit more. And you can of course do the opposite, so we can we can bring more back in, so we can start to overlap it if we go too far up the body. We can bring that mask element back into it. And be a bit more methodical down the neck. Changing the scale as we go. That's too much, so let's reduce the intensity as well. So you can reduce the RGB intensity, and that will reduce your mask potency. And that'll allow you to create a bit more subtlety in the mask. Okay. All right, so now that we've got that applied, we're going to invert it. And I'm going to start now thinking about slightly bringing this and raising it up ever so slightly off the surface. So we're going to zoom in, and I'm actually going to go under surface noise here, and we're going to turn that off because we just want to be dealing with the detail, okay? And it's just going to be a really small amount here. We're going to go into inflate, I'm going to tap on it and just put in a value of 2, and we'll see what that does. It's not done much. Okay, so we'll do a 2 again. Still not seeing much here. So let's just, there we go. Now you're starting to see it. Okay. And that's all I wanted. Just this smallest amount. There we go. And again, I know we're working at a much lower resolution, but that's fine. I'm okay with that. I want most of the look to come from a texture. I just wanted to have that raised up ever so slightly. So now we can start looking at coloring. And I think we're going to go with, I've got this, it sounds crazy. I found a really cool water snake that has black and yellow, and I don't know why, but for some reason I think that would suit Nessie. So we're going to try it out. It might look terrible, but we'll see. We'll have a look. Let's have a look here. So we're going to take yellow for the belly and maybe just see how that looks. So we'll go to RGB, 100% fill object. Why has that not worked? Okay, strange. Oh, wait a minute. Is it because I've got mRGB on? I have a feeling this could be because of the layer. So what I'm going to do here, I have a feeling this could be an issue with the layer that I've applied. So what I'll do is I've created this mask. So I'm going to do create alpha. Now, if you remember, we made UVs for this. So what Zbrush has done, very similar to the way that you get in Substance Painter, it's created a mask essentially. It's made an alpha, but it's made a mask. Okay, and I'll show you how that works in a second. All right, so at the moment I now have an alpha of this mask, which is going to allow me to now go in and potentially just bake that down. Okay, you can see what that's done, and it's to see whether or not this is actually going to work or not. And there we go. And let's invert the mask, and we will fill this with like a dark grey. And then the reason that I saved the alpha for the mask is just sometimes when you bake things down in ZBrush from a layer, it can delete things. So I like to make sure that I've got that as a backup. So with the masking, I can go in here and where's it gone? I'm looking right at it. And turn off the mask and take a look. And maybe let's turn the mask back on and make that yellow a bit more yellow. And do fill object. Oh no, that's too much. Invert, and let's make this a bit more a darker grey. And then hide the mask. I do like it, but I don't know if it's I don't know if it's a oh, what happened there? Oh, color blends at -1. That needs to be 0. There we go. I don't know if it's Nessie. You guys can. What do you think, folks? Do we go with the black and yellow, or should we go with something a bit more traditional? I'm going to quickly put a bit of color into the water. And yes, I know, I'm making the water I'm making the water brown to begin with, and then we'll put a little bit of blue to reflect the sky just over the top. Just a little bit. There we go. It's Scotland after all. And Loch Ness is known for having very, very poor visibility in its water. I believe it's like, I think it's like almost 250 meters deep at its deepest point. So it's pretty murky. So you'll be lucky if you get, I don't know, 5-6 meters underneath the surface before it starts to get the visibility starts to disappear. So I think what we're going to do, folks, what time are we at? Okay, we're actually way past, well, not way past, but we're now past our normal 2-hour slot. So we're going to leave our mannequin as he is, who appears to have gained some parts. And I think we're going to duplicate Nessie. And then we'll go back and let's do some new colors. Let's do some different colors. So we'll do the view mask, and we'll do a classic green. Let's see if I've got any. Actually, you know what? Let's go with sturgeon colors. Let's go with the sturgeon's color, which is like a grey green. And it's actually got kind of paler parts on it as well, which is kind of cool. But we're going to go with like a grey green here. And then for the top, we're going to go with, we'll go with a darker green, but we'll keep it in the grey spectrum here. And then we'll do, yeah, that looks quite cool. Okay, so we'll clear the mask. And now we can start thinking about putting in a little bit of work with the alphas. Let's just, oh, I think we've got two versions. There we go. So we'll get this one. So we'll start to add in a little bit of variation with the colors. So we're going to grab the dark green here, and I'm going to start by lowering my RGB intensity. I'm just going to start kind of bringing that in maybe a bit higher. Let's darken it a bit more. Just start bringing that into the crevices a bit more. I think we need to make an even lighter version, which doesn't make sense because, again, if you think about it from like a predator prey kind of situation, Nessie would probably be the biggest thing in the loch, so she probably wouldn't need to protect herself from any predators coming from the underside. But that's sometimes not how evolution works. You look at great white sharks; they don't really have that many enemies or natural enemies, but they still have like darker grey on the top and light grey on the bottom, and that's so that you can't see them when looking into the water from above, and it's really hard to see them from below because their belly's white and then the sunlight coming down. So it's one of those kind of interesting things. But again, sometimes there's no fun in that. So let's start in bringing in a little bit more of those classic colors. Why not? And I want to bring some orange in for the flippers. I really liked the idea of that. And we can maybe also get a little bit along. What we'll do is we're going to change up to a alpha 7 and a drag rectangle, and we can just start. Oh no, that's too much. Let's do the spray and reduce the intensity and just bring a little bit of that along the edging. And just start to kind of knock this up. The other thing as well is I'm going to put a really, really subtle amount of red through everything. Really subtle. It just adds a bit of color to the whole thing. So we'll start by putting it through the belly. Red and green tend to go really well together because obviously they're opposites. So let's just increase that a bit for the transition into the flippers. And the reason I've left the head blank like that is just to show you the difference that a little bit of variation in the color can really make with a texture. Increase that a bit. There we go. So we'll go back to the yellow and bring that, make that a little bit stronger. Coming down the middle, back onto the belly. And start blending that now into the rest of the colours. There we go. Oh, too much. Let's just put a little bit of this now into the flippers. And then if we turn on occlusion, you'll see that we can see where some of the scales are popping in. But we don't have that. Remember, the scales are not actually applied to the surface at the moment. You've got them as a bump map, and remember, we can, if we need to, we can subdivide the mesh to at least a couple of million so that we can actually start to see that detail pop through if we apply it to the surface. But I think for this one, we're not going to bother, and we can just kind of move on. Okay, so yeah, that's what we'll do. That's what we'll do, folks. Let's bring some green back in now so we can start to maybe warm the green up a little bit as well. Go. And we will, let me see here. Let's do alpha 8 and let's just bring that over. And yeah, there we go. Bring that over the whole lot. Just really lightly paint over all of the different values that we've put in. And I'm being very, very light with how I approach this, okay? So, yeah, okay. Yeah, that's looking all right. So let's take a little bit more of a closer look at the face. Let's see what we can do to break this up a bit. So we'll go back to the darker color on the top of the head and just make that a little bit darker and bring that in like so. I'm going to pull in some of this color here for the just around the lower jaw and then kind of coming up onto the lips a bit. And we'll darken up the eyes a bit more too. Maybe bring this forward for the nose. There we go. And all I'm doing here really is just playing around and try to find values that I like. I'm just playing with it a little bit really. And we'll grab darker areas for the underside of the lips, like so. There we go. Not a huge fan of the way the bridge of the nose is, so let's lighten that up a little bit. Lighten that up a little bit. And then once I am more or less happy with the values and the just general kind of pigmentation color that I've put down, then we can go in and start to be a little bit more detailed with, and you'll have seen me do this before, we can take like a purple, really lower the intensity, and we can start using a drag rectangle and maybe darken it a bit so it shows up a bit more. And I can start to pull in. You can hopefully see it's quite subtle, but we can actually now start to get some kind of stripier looks to it. And we're going to be limited by our model's subdivision level to how much of that detail in the poly paint can come through. But I'm okay with that. I'm actually looking for something a bit muddier. Because one of the references I have is a few of those like really blurry photographs of a supposed Loch Ness monster, and you see all this really weird pigmentation, and that's kind of what I wanted to kind of bring in and pull in with this. So I'm going to do a bit of something a bit redder, a bit more brown along the eyebrows and the eyelids. Maybe a little bit around the nostril. There we go. Perfect. All right. Okay, folks. So the last thing we're going to do is we're going to do a little bit of a pose. Oh my God. Sorry. I don't know why, but our mannequin keeps growing things. All right. Let me now just do a quick save, and we'll save Nessie as version 17 before we do some posing. Okay, that took a little while longer than expected. So there we go. Oh, see, and this is why I put the haggis in, because I knew that when I went to pose her, that the mannequin would just disappear. It just does how it goes, folks. Just how it goes. All right, so that's a really nice sculpting color. I need to try and remember that. Okay. So what we're going to do here is we are going to use the masking tools. So let's mask out her head, make a nice soft fall off. And again, this is another reason why you really want to have good topology before you do any kind of posing. It just makes your life so much easier, so much easier. So now I want to, let's see what we can do. Yeah, I think what we'll do here is we'll soften that off a little. I think I'm just going to go for a tilt of the head. Nice and simple, nothing fancy, just again trying to replicate that surgeon's photograph look. And then we'll maybe do a little bit of a head tilt like that. And then again, doing something that you should never do in this mode is make adjustments to the model. Bad Pat. Very bad Pat. Go. And the reason I'm just want to make a few nudges just to keep the volume of the neck. There we go. All right. Okay. Pose sub T. Probably going to get a weird error. Oh no, we didn't. I thought that we might get a weird error with a mannequin. And there we go. We've got the eye line pretty much correct with the eyes. Oops, what did we do there? There we go. what did I do? Right, there we go. So we need to make sure that we have local symmetry on. Turn dynamic off. Or maybe on. Nope. I think we're just going to stick with the eyes where they are. There we go. All right, folks. Let's just take the... Oh, wait a minute. Let's increase the RGB intensity so our masking is correct. And then we'll just move that out. A little bit of extra work. There we go. So, save as. A to Z, Nessie. There we go. Z tool and 18. Right. Suppose we could also give her a better material. We could make her look a little bit more like a creature that's just come out of the water. What do we want to do? I want to be too reflective. Oh no, that's too much. Oh, wait a minute, I know what I'll do. I'll just do Marlon Nunez's skin. And we will do M and fill object. And then in here, I'm going to go into material. Wax modifier is already on, but we're going to increase the, we're actually just going to increase the strength of it. And we'll turn that on in here. Adds a bit of warmth throughout the material, okay? And the last thing I want to do is go into material and just do a few modifications, but I'm going to open this up on the opposite side here so that I can see what's happening. So let's see, we can increase make her look a little bit brighter. We can go into the specular and we can make her a bit more shiny. There we go. All right. There we go, folks. That's enough. We can definitely work with this. This can be turned into a fully fledged image, and I think I would like to do that. It's really strange how a project can change over the course of you working on it. So, for example, I started out with this idea of let's make a kind of creepy, maybe cute, kind of creepy Loch Ness monster. And then it essentially evolved into more of a traditional kind of idea of what the Loch Ness monster probably looks like. And I just kind of took it down my usual the style I use when I'm making a stylized character. Okay. One of the notable things is the eyes. I generally will always put an orange, a very deep orange eye in my characters. This goes all the way back to 2011 when I first did a tutorial for digital tutors, and I did a snake, and the snake had this really bright orange eye in it, and it's kind of always been something I've put into my characters ever since. So there we go, folks. I would like to thank everyone for coming along and hanging out with me this afternoon. I know we went over a little bit, so I appreciate you all staying around. The last thing to say is, last few things, make sure that you check out the links below the video, and that's going to take you to all of the social links for Firestorm Studios, and make sure to join the Discord community as well. Remember, as I said, occasionally we do impromptu live streams and chat sessions, so you get to hang out with an amazing community, and you get to sometimes hang out with members of the team over here at Firestorm Studios. And from that, you can find out whether or not you might want to take part or in some of the work in progress work that's going on. And possibly even pick up a mentorship if it's something that you're looking for. So yes, last thing to say, folks, enjoy the rest of your afternoon, your evening, and your forthcoming weekend. And I will see you all next week. I will be streaming at the same time on Monday. Yeah, I hope to see you all then. All right, folks, it was lovely having you all. Take care, and I'll see you next week. Bye for now.